Why do I why do I sit in meditation? What is my objective? There, of course, can be many different reasons. But what will bring me the greatest benefit? How can meditation extend beyond the seated time, be relevant to my day-to-day life? Temporarily, I might sit to get some relief from the stress and strain of the day. But the moment it's over, do I find myself being pulled back into that stress and strain? Is it possible that this seated meditation time can alleviate the stress and strain of day-to-day life? I don't escape to meditation, but I am transformed through meditation. And I integrate that gift of transformation into my day-to-day life. I am seated here now, and my objective is a moment of peace. Using the method I know to remember I'm a spiritual being and experience my true nature of peace. I become quiet to reconnect. But when I return to sound, do I disconnect again? Do I protect that connection even as I come back into sound and action? I pay particular attention while seated. Perhaps I need to continue paying attention while walking and moving around, because I don't cease to be a soul whenever I come into action. It does seem that action in some ways came between me and the connection to myself, spirituality. But the solution is not to stop acting every time I want to connect. I want to now bring that connection with myself as a spiritual being between me and action, so that action is not in between, spirituality is. That is why I sit now in meditation. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Good evening. Welcome to Interview with Raj Yogi. And tonight's session is True Spiritual Integration. And so for the regular students, this morning's class seemed to be very much back to basics in terms of actually what it really felt like was assessing the quality of the foundation of our study, which is about I'm a spiritual being. So I was wondering, in terms of just the commentary you had mentioned about paying attention, perhaps not even when I'm sitting, but walking and moving around. Sometimes souls have headaches, and sometimes souls might say, I am paying attention, but I don't seem to be able to still integrate. What do you think might be the issue? That there's a bit of a gap. Om Shanti. There will, of course, always be variety in any study or mastering any art. In this case, the art of meditation, of yoga, there's going to be variety, and souls come to this with a bit of baggage, if you will. So their own ideas, their own practices. So it takes, I guess it just takes a lot of humility to be able to look at what I'm actually doing. I know that if I took a very overt example, which we often do, fitness class, there's such variety in terms of how souls look at themselves, how well they're able to take a cue and apply it. And the more humble a soul is, the better I suppose it will go. I don't think there's any one thing one can say. I really feel we've been given the instruction equally. And so up to each of us, I guess, to look at the self honestly. Perhaps maybe we jumped in the topic a little too quickly. Topic is true spiritual integration. Perhaps maybe you can share a little bit about what that means, spiritual integration. I think very simply the idea of living spiritually. So there can be, not for everyone, but there can be a separation of what we consider to be spirituality or even meditation and what we call day-to-day life or real life. And so that's called segregation or separation. The idea that what I practice when in seated meditation, I want to carry over that feeling, that practice, that awareness as I'm walking and moving around. Again, we see this, I see this all the time, the parallel in fitness. I'm thinking a lot about the class today, actually, that souls will do work that's focused on a specific thing, such as core or mobility. And then the next piece is to have it, what we say, enhance their performance in their sport. That means I'll have to be, A, I have to master it, but B, I have to be very conscious, and it usually requires overriding other habits. You were sharing that this aspect of spirituality has now a reputation of segregation, just disconnecting.
but that's not what it's about. But in light of this aspect of integration, because everything has become so physical, we even use this word detach, study, have a little bit of distance, on a more quiet level internally to be able to see things objectively. You can take those in a pretty literal way or take it in a way that whereas this grappling that souls have with segregation and separation, where do you feel this aspect of awareness that the study at the heart of it is about transforming awareness? How do you feel? Because you were saying the instructions are very clear and so much of it is about awareness. How does understanding the power of awareness and using awareness help to perhaps maybe bridge this gap of this separating or disconnecting or segregation?
We always are in some kind of awareness, and it is powerful. So it's not that I have no awareness. I just have, yes, a physical awareness, and it's very powerful. So this is again the issue of habits are interfering. I have the habit of having a physical awareness about myself. So when we're talking about a habit, that's why I have to pay attention. So first I want to be still, and what does it feel like to have a spiritual awareness about myself? So that's why we sit in meditation, is I just want to know what it feels like. Now that I've mastered that, I know what it feels like. Now I'm going to have to pay a lot of attention because the old habit will keep pulling, um, to introduce that awareness, which is the very seed of integration. Um, Pay a lot of attention to what is my awareness as I start to come into sound and action. And perhaps it starts with very simple activities, and then it gets more and more into problem solving and challenging situations. But if I can continually make that an objective, be very intentional, but it's a priority, that will help a lot. But the habits will pull and keep interfering.
In terms of this physical parallel you often use in terms of fitness, and I'm just referring back to as well the inner fitness sessions we used to have, which were quite fascinating. There's always these parallels in probably different aspects of our physical lives, but you were talking about physical fitness in terms of spiritual fitness. So you had shared that in terms of learning about, just core strength and to be able to learn how to do that in specific sessions and physical fitness and to be able to carry that through and it flow over into just walking, moving around, and performing actions to be able to hold that core strength. And you often share that there seems to be a disconnect, and sometimes I think that souls even say that I don't think it's possible, or so there's an attitude created. Do you find that it's really about attitude, and how have you found there's a parallel in terms of addressing that in something like physical fitness, of being able to have one's physical core, for that to be something that can be maintained, to be able to bridge that, perhaps maybe it's a negative attitude or old habits, to something as well as spirituality? Have you noticed anything that's helped?
I guess deep down, I feel that souls want to do this. And um, there is a lot of resistance, mostly from ego, a lot of resistance to doing it, a lot of interference, which is why we come back again and again to humility. And that resistance can come up in so many different voices, including an attitude. Um, I am thinking a lot about this class today because I found it very fascinating. It's not a class I would usually teach. They must have really needed a sub. And it's not a demographic I'm usually with. Um, these are um, it's mostly a group of men who probably were very active in their youth. So they're used to very athletic, heavy lifting, really not my thing. Um, but luckily, core applies to everything. Um, and I really actually was touched. I didn't know what would happen. This is why I'm saying I have faith in people, because I know that how easy it is for the to impress and show comes up for these kinds of souls. And they probably didn't think much of me when I walked in really to do this class, um, because I'm not a heavy lifter. So it was very interesting as the class unfolded, what happened. One thing that we did was have them do an exercise on an unstable surface to get their core to fire, to force it. And this is why we often say in this study, it is those who are in difficult situations who are more likely to pay attention. We use the word bondage, but those in very challenging are actually better. It forces that awareness to fire. Those who actually have it very easy, they continue to go back to those old attainments, and the resistance is very strong. But there was a point when they're on this unstable surface and they finally figured out what was going on, that this was all about core. It wasn't about heavy lifting. They finally, and they were fantastic, and they really wanted. There came a tipping point when they shifted from, we came in here to lift heavy, to we came in here to improve our performance, to challenge our execution of the exercise. And so they're on this unstable surface, and then they all got heavy weights, things I could never lift. And we showed them what they're doing on this unstable, and it was every single one of them went back to the rack and got lighter weights, which was a phenomenal moment, um, because they all felt to do this properly, not for show, to do it properly, I have to do something different. I have to not succumb to the show. So I think souls want to, but to acknowledge that there is going to be a lot of resistance. And I have to really pay attention to what I'm doing when I'm seated, because it's a little easier to watch the resistance. And then again, start to create, if you will, some assignments for myself. Times when I feel I can integrate, times when it's difficult for me to integrate. So I kind of develop a program for myself ahead of time. An example someone might give, doesn't necessarily have to do with spirituality, though I think it does, is listening. I find listening fascinating. That we don't listen very well. We seem to think that the idea of listening is that I need to give advice at the end of it or put my ideas forward, which doesn't make any sense. So it's actually a very spiritual moment to become a detached listener, just to listen. And it's a wonderful opportunity. If I find that I am one who is always trying to, someone says something just to share, but I think I have to give my 2 cents, I can set a program for myself. And I'm going to pay attention. Okay, I'm listening now. I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to. So notice both the strengths and maybe the weak spots, and develop a program. Master it when I'm seated, and then be very intentional, because there is resistance.
Your sharing was just inspiring some other questions that I don't know if I would have placed it in the integration category, but understanding, patience, like, wouldn't that be also integration in terms of, there's obstacles in the way, like in the situation you're in, but having clarity in that sense that you wouldn't think of being able to actually respond differently to challenges coming up is also part of integration. Do you have any thoughts about that?
It's always nice when I'm going into something. I think this is probably the most difficult thing we can do is learning how to live spiritually. I think it is the most difficult thing we can do. And it's nice to go into it not being naive, but aware of what is going to happen so that I can sort of rally those kinds of qualities that you're talking and not be romantic or naive about this. Ego will say, oh, yeah, I can do this overnight, right? And I sort of try to act like I've integrated. I dress differently, I speak differently, etc. But I haven't really. I'm not soul conscious while I'm operating. So it's nice to know the lay of the land, to be very honest and authentic, to acknowledge the challenges that will come, which isn't to dishearten the self, but to equip the self so that I can actually be very sincere in what I'm doing. So, yes, it will require qualities to manage what to expect as I move into living spiritually.
Surprise. Since we're late because of the IT, we're just extending just a couple more minutes. It's interesting what you're sharing in terms of foundation because I was looking up the word deep today, and somehow it's actually linked to the origins of the word foundation, which is quite interesting. So the reason why I was asking about why I'm asking or just bringing this up, because, for example, someone who is forced to pay more attention because there's challenges and so forth, just in terms of the realm again of understanding and even listening, even inside. And we're talking about being able to integrate, so to speak, in the middle of challenges. How about disheartenment? How about like these individuals who are in your class? I know that might be, I don't know if they were disheartened, but maybe that's not a very good example. But sometimes individuals may just give up, right? They can't access the foundation. They want to pay attention. Obstacles keep coming up again and again. In terms of being able to honor the love or want for integration, do you have any thoughts to share, maybe from your own personal experience?
It was interesting today because I was, even though they're big and and strong and everything, I felt they were oddly in a sensitive place. And I was very careful to correct and cue, but also to encourage a lot. The language was really, really important to acknowledge, and they did an amazing job with a lot of stuff they're not used to. They were really amazing. But still, there was obviously things to correct. So this is, how we talk to someone that is trying something different is we're going to have to give some direction or correction, but also a lot of support and encouragement. So I kind of need to know how to talk to myself. And this is all actually based on a lot of self-respect. But yes, I need to be very clear with myself, very aware of what I'm doing, but never in a punitive or degrading way, which would lead to disheartenment. So lots of faith in the self, lots of, as you said, patience with the self, to really know the self, to understand the self, and to recognize that, yes, I am capable of doing this. If I'm pulled to do it, the odds are very high that I was that at one time. So to really maintain that sense of belief in the self, we just had a beautiful ceremony, Raksha Bandhan, which is based on a Hindu festival. And it's about making a promise to the self, which is witnessed by God and protected by God. And I think for me, every year the promise kind of circulates around the same idea. I vow to never stop believing in myself. That's kind of it. However messy or strange it gets, I will not give up on the self. I will not cease to believe in the self. That's even more important than soul consciousness, actually. Have to have a lot. You have to be your number one cheerleader without being naive. So finding that balance, very clear, but very encouraging.
Thank you. Speaking of listening, I should listen to the audience. That time has run out. So we should probably have to have a little reflection.
So many things can happen during the day. Some we think are good things, some we think are not good things. And sometimes the things that we think are not good at all can actually be a gift. When things around us become unpredictable, a bit chaotic, not going the way we expected, at those moments, I am being given a gift to not look outside for quality of life, but to look inside, to recognize the quality of the self. That is the essence of spirituality. It's very pure experience of the self. That quality of life is based on experiencing the quality of the self, not the quantity, not the image, but the quality. At seated moments, I take that opportunity, that chance to dive deeply into experiencing the beautiful qualities of the self as a soul. And then as I walk and move around, to decorate my life from the inside out with those qualities. Not just what I'm doing, not just the quantity, but how I'm doing it, the quality, coloring it, everything I do with the beauty of the self. That is living spiritually. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, thank you for joining with us this evening. I just want to let souls know about upcoming sessions. And so we have our new sessions for September and October has been posted on the website. So we do have Raj Yoga full course in Hindi happening on September 14th, 15th, 21st, 22nd. So those are over 2 weekends, 12 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. So we call them half-day sessions over 2 weekends. So we also have the English Raja Yoga Foundations course, and that happens on Fridays, no longer on Wednesdays. We just thought to make it easier. If someone's got used to the Friday timing, then they may find it much more easier to be able to adjust when they come for the evening meditation on sites, also on the Fridays, 6:30 p.m. And so we also have on September 21st, which is the International Day of Peace, as recognized by the United Nations. So there is the Learn About Meditation workshop, or we call it just a drop-in session at the Academy. And so that does not require registration, but you're welcome to drop in. But if you'll find that on the website, and registration is optional, so 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. So all of that's on the website. You can also find the center sessions as well on the Eventbrite website as well. Thank you for joining. Om Shanti.